Titanic, in full Royal Mail ship, RMS, Titanic, British luxury passenger liner that sank on April 14 to 15, 1912, during its maiden voyage, en route to New York City from Southampton, England, killing about 1,500, see researchers note, Titanic, passengers and ship personnel. One of the most famous tragedies in modern history, it inspired numerous stories, several films, and a musical, and has been the subject of much scholarship and scientific speculation. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic set sail on its maiden voyage, traveling from Southampton, England, to New York City. Nicknamed the Millionaire Special, the ship was fittingly captained by Edward J. Smith, who was known as the Millionaire's captain because of his popularity with wealthy passengers. Indeed, on board were a number of prominent people, including American businessman Benjamin Guggenheim, British journalist William Thomas Stead, and Macy's department store co-owner Isidor Straus and his wife, Idaho. In addition, Ismay and Andrews were also traveling on the Titanic. The voyage nearly began with a collision, however, when suction from the Titanic caused the docked New York to swing into the giant liner's path. After an hour of maneuverings to prevent the accident, the Titanic was underway. On the evening of April 10 the ship stopped at Cherbourg, France. The city's dock was too small to accommodate the Titanic, so passengers had to be ferried to and from the ship in tenders. Among those boarding were John Jacob Astor and his pregnant second wife, Madeline, and Molly Brown. After some 2 hours the Titanic resumed its journey. On the morning of April 11 the liner made its last scheduled stop in Europe, at Queenstown, Cove, Ireland. At approximately 1:30 p.m. the ship set sail for New York City. On board were some 2,200 people, approximately 1,300 of whom were passengers. Why did the Titanic sink? The immediate cause of RMS Titanic's demise was a collision with an iceberg that caused the ocean liner to sink on April 14 to 15, 1912. While the ship could reportedly stay afloat if as many as 4 of its 16 compartments were breached, the impact had affected at least 5 compartments. It was originally believed that the iceberg had caused a long gash in the hull. After examining the wreck, however, scientists discovered that the collision had produced a series of thin gashes as well as brittle fracturing and separation of seams in the adjacent hull plates, thus allowing water to flood into the Titanic. Later examination of retrieved ship parts, as well as paperwork in the builder's archives, led to speculation that low-quality steel or weak rivets may have contributed to the sinking. Read more below. Aftermath and investigation, U.S. inquiry. How many people died when the Titanic sank? The exact number of people killed is unknown. Original passenger and crew lists were rendered inaccurate by such factors as misspellings, omissions, aliases, and failure to count musicians and other contracted employees as either passengers or crew members. However, it is generally believed that of the ship's approximately 2,200 passengers and crew members, some 1,500 people perished when the ship sank. According to the U.S. committee investigating the sinking, 1,517 lives were lost, and its British counterpart determined that 1,503 died. The crew suffered the most casualties, with about 700 fatalities. Third class also suffered greatly, as only 174 of its approximately 710 passengers survived. Read more below. Maiden voyage, final hours. Where is the wreck of the Titanic? The wreck of the Titanic, which was discovered on September 1, 1985, is located at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, some 13,000 feet, 4,000 meters, underwater. It is approximately 400 nautical miles, 740 kilometers, from Newfoundland, Canada. The ship is in 2 main pieces, the bow and the stern. The exact location of the ship's bow, which is the largest and most intact portion, is 41 degrees 43'57" and 49 degrees 56'49" W. Read more below. Discovery and legacy. Why is the Titanic famous? From the outset, The Titanic captured the public's imagination. At the time, it was one of the largest and most opulent ships in the world. It was also considered unsinkable, due to a series of compartment doors that could be closed if the bow was breached. However, 4 days into its maiden voyage in 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg, and less than 3 hours later it sank. The drama of the eyewitness accounts and the great loss of life helped make it one of the most well-known tragedies in modern history. After the 1985 discovery of its wreckage, interest in the Titanic only increased, and its enduring appeal was evident with a huge success of James Cameron's 1997 film about the doomed ocean liner.